After the Hessian Prime Minister Bouffier had to resign, many politicians realized that somehow they had to be rid of me. After all, convicting Mr. Bouffier was not difficult. Since I have no assets in Germany and I'm not tied to Germany by family or in any other way, it is not possible for the German authorities and politicians to have direct influence on me. Only indirect influence would be possible. To do this, however, you have to ask the respective governments of the countries in which I am staying for permission or support beforehand. As I will show in a moment, German politics does not shy away from staging court proceedings in order to pursue political persecution. Therefore, when choosing a location for my banking transactions, I had to make sure that I would do this in a country that is not subject to the European seizure regulation. This is the only way I can protect myself from direct action by German authorities on my assets. On August 2, 2022, my bank in Switzerland informed me that my account would be closed. That came as a relative surprise to me, since there were only 2 to 3 recurring transactions per month on the account, so the account management is inconspicuous and the bank receives fees without any effort. When I asked the bank for the reason on August 22, 2022, I was informed that the termination was made by the compliance department due to internal regulations. The bank does not reveal exactly what that is. I then downloaded all the account documents from the portal. Among them was a message to the bank that the public prosecutor's office in Hildesheim had submitted an international request for legal assistance to the bank. In order to find out what was behind it, I hired a lawyer who applied file access to the public prosecutor's office in Hildesheim. It turned out that I was sentenced of tax evasion without my knowledge. This is interesting because I have always met my tax obligations. With my letter dated August 4, 2019, the Hildesheim tax office is reminded that I deregistered from Germany on April 30, 2016, and that the registration certificate was presented to the tax office on November 4, 2016. After I noticed one day that I was in Germany for more than 183 days and that I was liable for tax payments, the corresponding tax declarations were submitted. Since I am not resident in Germany, my tax assessments have always been sent to me via tax portal ELSTER. However, this was not done with the tax assessment notice for the corresponding criminal proceedings. On December 27, 2022, the Hildesheim tax office got me asked to explain why this was not done. The letter went unanswered. On phone, I explained to my lawyer that I had been fleeing from German authorities since September 2020 for the fear of reprisals. I also informed him about my background and my attempt to clear up money laundering at Wirecard. The lawyer then tells me that the criminal file contains a request for information, according to which the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior has requested access to the files at the Hildesheim Public Prosecutor's Office with reference to the Wirecard-Scandal. That is very interesting. That means even before the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior complained in its letter dated November 3, 2021 about my request to Mr. Soder for resignation from office, according to the letter dated January 9, 2023, contact had already been made with the Hildesheim Public Prosecutor's Office on October 29, 2021. Of course, this was not mentioned in the letter of November 3, 2021, because otherwise it would have been clear at an early stage that the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior, on behalf of Mr. Soder, intended to influence alleged criminal tax proceedings. Then I would have forestalled the plot and taken care of the matter. That then also explains the background to why I did not receive the relevant tax assessment notice via ELSTER. In order to be able to sue me, they mailed a tax assessment notice to an old address that they knew would get returned as undeliverable. By that, I could be charged with a crime without my knowledge. The tax office was able to inform the court that I always pay proper tax assessments. Thus, a ruse could only work if I had no knowledge of a payment burden. With the intention of cutting me off from my financial assets during my flight, this judgment could be used to deceive my bank in Switzerland into canceling my account for compliance reasons. I asked my lawyer to send me a copy of the criminal file in order to find out the exact background of what was exchanged between the Hildesheim Public Prosecutor's Office and the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior. Unfortunately, something like this is not possible, I was told. I can only take a look at the criminal file personally on site in Germany. Of course, I can't do that. After all, I fled Germany in anticipation of just such reprisals. As it has now turned out, this was the right decision. However, I did not expect that the Bavarian Prime Minister Söder, due to his involvement in the Wirecard-Scandal, that he would go so far as to persecute me politically by having a court case staged or interfering in investigations by the public prosecutor. Contrary to the assertion by the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior on January 9, 2023, the Hildesheim Public Prosecutor's Office was not contacted out of curiosity. With my letter dated November 8, 2022, the Public Prosecutor's Office in Hildesheim was informed about my background to the investigation of money laundering and that I could never be accused of tax evasion based on my tax file. In my letter, I accused the public prosecutor of having abused the CR system, Common Reporting Standard, by deceiving my bank in order to get them to close my account and thus make my escape more difficult. The prosecutor did not reply to the letter. On December 27, 2022, I accused the Public Prosecutor's Office of having staged the proceedings against me in order to assist the Bavarian state government in political persecution, with the aim of having me extradited by foreign governments under false pretenses while I was fleeing. The Public Prosecutor's Office did not reply to these letters either. The Federal Ministry of Justice summarizes Article 20, Paragraph 2, Sentence 2 on its website as follows. The three powers of legislation, executive power and judiciary control, and limit each other. Separation of powers protects fundamental rights and thus serves to protect the freedom of citizens from abuse of power. Even if the Bavarian state government had a legitimate reason to link the court proceedings in Hildesheim to the Wirecard-Scandal, it was clear from the outset that you would violate the German constitution if you even gave the impression of taking revenge on me by interfering politically in a court proceeding. On the other hand, the same fact was clear to the Public Prosecutor's Office in Hildesheim, when information was not refused and interference was tolerated. If one ignores this benevolent scenario, one can also get the impression that the court proceedings and the conspiracy based on the undelivered tax assessments were initiated jointly between the legislative and the judiciary. One can come to this conclusion because I was not informed on November 3, 2021 about contacting the Public Prosecutor's Office in Hildesheim. This is an indication that criminal tax proceedings had not yet taken place when the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior contacted the Hildesheim Public Prosecutor's Office. Mr. Söder and his Ministry of the Interior did not want to leave it at that. After my account in Switzerland was terminated, I quickly opened a new account. The attempt to cut me off from my financial means had failed. With my transfer of the sentence to the Public Prosecutor's Office in Hildesheim on December 12, 2022, the plot of the Bavarian Prime Minister against me had failed altogether. In my letter dated January 29, 2023, I described two unusual cases in which I was exposed to extreme aggression to the federal government of the country in which I was residing at the time. On December 17, 2022, I was aggressively insulted for no reason, and I was accused of bumping into someone while exercising. But that wasn't true. A week later, on December 25, 2022, I was verbally attacked by three men because I allegedly parked my car wrong. When I kindly pointed that the allegations weren't true and that I hadn't parked in an exit, the men surrounded me and continued their insults. I noticed that the men surrounded me in such a way that I always had to turn my back to at least one of them. This behavior is practiced police tactics aimed at overpowering a person from behind in a moment of surprise. As in the first case, I didn't let myself be provoked into a physical escalation and pulled away. The federal government sent me to the responsible ministries with these allegations. With reference to the staged criminal proceedings at the Hildesheim District Court and the political persecution by the Bavarian Prime Minister, I asked the state's Ministry of Justice on February 12, 2023 for information on the extent to which I, as a whistleblower, am protected from extradition to German authorities by EU Regulation 2019/1937. Also, on February 12, 2023, I asked the Ministry of the Interior for information about the intention of the Domestic Secret Service to provoke me to commit a crime. While the Ministry of Interior has not responded, the Ministry of Justice informs me that Regulation 2019/1937 is only aimed at whistleblower protection in the context of an employment relationship. Since the government of the country was obviously deceived by the German federal government and allowed itself to be carried to attack me, I am asking Federal Foreign Minister Baerbock to comment on July 13, 2023. In order to deceive a foreign government and to engage in political persecution, a diplomatic request must be set through the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs. By describing the circumstances that had happened to me, however, the federal foreign minister did not answer. With the failure of the plot at the Hildesheim District Court and the attempt to involve me in a criminal offense by foreign domestic secret services, Mr. Soder and his Ministry of the Interior still did not want to stop there. On February 13, 2023, I received a call from Commissariat 72 of the Munich Police and was asked to give a witness statement on the Wirecard case on site. In my letter dated March 2, 2023, I am informing the Munich Public Prosecutor's Office that I will provide all the information requested. Again, telling my background, I request the Munich Public Prosecutor's Office that the witness hearing must take place either at the State Police Headquarters in Tyrol or at the State Police Headquarters in Vienna. In addition, I demand that a maximum of 2 persons from German authorities may be present, and at least 2 officers from the Austrian police must be present. In addition, I request that audio recordings to be made to rule out manipulation when transcribing. I would create those too. The Public Prosecutor's Office in Munich did not reply to this letter, nor did the Munich Commissariat 72 contact me again. This made it clear that the Munich Public Prosecutor's Office had never intended to interview me as a witness in the Wirecard case. Instead, the intention was quite obviously to lure me to enter Germany under false pretenses in order to put me on a staged trial again. On January 17, 2023, I will file a criminal complaint against the Bavarian Prime Minister Markus Söder for political persecution. Before that, on January 16, 2023, I am calling on Mr. Söder for the second time to resign as Prime Minister of Bayer on charges of political persecution. As expected, the proceedings against Mr. Söder were dropped by the Munich Public Prosecutor's Office under file number 115 AR 1945/23. My complaint of March 19, 2023 to the Munich Public Prosecutor's Office under file number 500 and 3Zs 600 and 21/23, I was rejected on April 11, 2023. In contrast to the legal remedy for my complaint before the Frankfurt Public Prosecutor's Office regarding the investigations against Volker Bouffier, the Public Prosecutor's Office did not name a complaints authority to the Bavarian Ministry of Justice. When I asked about that, I was told that this option does not exist under German law. The General Prosecutor's Office in Munich is referred to the case at the General Prosecutor's Office in Frankfurt, and a report in the Handelsblatt of March 10, 2023, which writes, Düsseldorf. The clarification of the largest German tax scandal, Cum-Ex, is shaken by an unprecedented judicial scandal. As the Handelsblatt learned, the former North Rhine-Westphalian Minister of Justice, Peter Biesenbach, CDU, has filed a complaint against the head of the Cologne Public Prosecutor's Office and his deputy, and, in a letter to his successor, NRW Minister of Justice Benjamin Limbach, Greens, he expresses his fear that the head of the Cologne Public Prosecutor's Office and his representative neither prop nor support the investigators. The obvious contradiction is not allowing an appeal against the decision of the Public Prosecutor's Office. To investigate, the Bavarian Prime Minister got recognized. Of course, the Bavarian Minister of Justice would not instruct the public prosecutor's office to investigate his fellow party member. In order to spare the Justice Department this unpleasant decision, they not only ignored applicable law, but also refused to comment on it. On February 15, 2023, the District Court of Hildesheim was asked to reverse the judgment on the charge of perverting the law. The court does not answer.